So today I made a post on X about how a lot of altcoins are following what the internet stocks did in their first 5 to 10 years of trading. And essentially, my post was this: like, this was Amazon right here in the beginning. From 1997, it went up almost 9,000%, and then it crashed 95% within those first 5, 6 years, right? And basically, we are seeing this with a lot of altcoins too. So this is DAG Constellation. It went up 11,000% from the bottom, and then it just crashed also 95%, right? So it's kind of identical to a lot of other internet stocks. So let's take a look at a few more internet stocks from the beginning, and we will compare them to Amazon and this DAG Constellation chart. And next we'll do Qualcomm. So Qualcomm, I have it pulled up here from the low here back in 1992, and it rose almost 25,000%, right? And does this crash look pretty significant in the grand scheme of things? Well, it's on log scale, so no, it doesn't really. But how bad was that crash from the top in 2000 down to the bottom in 2002? Well, let's pull up our percentages. We'll go from the top down to the bottom, and that was about 88%, right? Even though it doesn't look that bad, it still is 88% decline from the very top. And then what happened? It found the bottom, and it came back to almost double tap the bottom, which when we go back to this chart, we see the same thing happening here with DAG is trying to double tap the bottom, maybe goes down a little bit lower. And did it happen with Amazon? Yeah, it came up here, almost double tapped the bottom right there in a shorter amount of time. Here it's taken a little bit longer of time for DAG, right? But we saw this with Qualcomm back in the day, where it came to the bottom, and it was making lower lows. It finally hit the bottom, then it came back to almost double tap, and then came lower again, but then went higher and higher and higher, right? So essentially, it's following the same pattern as what we're seeing with a lot of altcoins. So let's continue. So the next one we have is Cisco Systems, and this one started a little bit earlier, and not in the later 90s, so it had more time to grow before the bubble popped, right? So this low happened in 1990, and it went up straight up to about the top in 2000, and that was 121,000, maybe 122,000%, right? And what happened from the top down to the low of 2002? Well, let's take a look at what happened. It was essentially let's go a little bit closer. Yeah, it was over 90%, right? It was a 90% drop. So again, that's something, a greater increase, but still a 90% drop. Even though on log scale it doesn't look that bad, but still from the top it's 90%. But Cisco is a little bit different, because if we go to today, it still has not recovered into the all-time highs. So this bubble was just a lot more extreme than the other ones that we mentioned, and their growth has slowed down significantly, which is what it really means, right? But still, a massive increase, and then still a 90% drop from the top. So essentially, that is the same as what we're seeing with this altcoin and with similar to DAG as well. Just here on Amazon, and it was only established in 1997, so it didn't have as much time to go up 100,000%, right? So let's continue. And next we're going to do Microsoft. And Microsoft was actually established in the 80s, in the like 1986 or so. So let's do a little more recent from the run-up. Let's do it from the lows in the 90s to the top. All right, so we'll start there. We'll start right here from maybe 1992, that low, to the top. That was about a 2,834% gain. And even if we went all the way to the bottom here, what kind of percentage gain is that? That would be a 68,000% gain, right? So from the bottom, we can just do that. From the 90s, it was 2787. So it didn't really grow as much during the same time as like Amazon or the other ones, but basically from the 80s, because it had a whole decade in front of it to grow a lot more. So what kind of drop did that have from the top? Well, from here down to the 2000s, right? So this one actually topped in 99, a little bit before, right? So we'll go here, down here. That was only a 67%, 68% drop, right? It actually held a lot better, but then you see it crashed even further back during the not the .com, during the financial crisis. So in total, it actually dropped a total of 75%, right? When you look at Amazon, we can zoom out here on the Amazon chart. See, during the .com crisis, it did not make a lower low. Down here in 2008, did not make a lower low. It kept on trending higher. So its bottom actually was in 2001, and then it just steadily grew. But when you look at Microsoft, it did not. It kept on kind of trading sideways, and then finally made a lower low here. So up from the very bottom in 1986 to the very top, it was about 64,000%, 63,000%, and then from the top down to 2008, down 75%. So what I'm really saying is the internet stocks of the 90s, of the 80s, is similar to what a lot of altcoins are experiencing today. So here I showed you DAG. So now let me show you some of the altcoins that are similar to this kind of explosive growth and with a massive decline in the years following it. So let's take a look. Now the first stock I'm going to compare to DAG is HBAR. So from the low back here in 2019 and to the high in 2021 in September, it rose almost 6,000%. And when we see the drop from 2021 down to the low back here, well, what do you see? It's 94%. Basically in line with what we've been seeing with the rest of the internet stocks I just showed you and some of the altcoins I'm going to show you too. So this is one similarity. Now let's continue. So next we're going to do XRP, and this is going to be the market cap of XRP just because there's been some inflation. So I'm just going to include that with this calculation just to show you that from here, the bottom, June 2014, to the top in December of 2017, it rose 600,000%, right? That's a huge gain. Really, really massive, right? And then if we go to the top here, down to the bottom there, what do you know? 96% drop. Like on log scale, it doesn't make any difference. It looks like it's really not that significant, right? But it's still 96%. And this is how massive of a gain that was. And where do we see price here? Well, it's still down 79, 80%, right? From the high. And essentially that is still, when we go back here, when we look at the bottom, it's still making a series of higher lows on working its way higher and higher. And so this chart is not bearish at all. It's just taking a longer time to play out. But this one actually was created a lot longer than some of the other ones. So it had a lot more time to get these massive gains, but the loss was still the same. Now let's even look at the XRP Bitstamp chart here for the same. We'll take that off. So we'll go back just to show you. If we don't want to use the market cap, we'll use the all-time low here. And then we'll go up, and that's still 120,000. You can see the market cap, because of inflation, it increased a lot more than 120,000. But when we go from the top here down to the bottom, we can see it's still the same percentage drop, right? 96% drop to this bottom here in 2020, and now the loss is still 85%. Still quite significant, so it still has not made its gains back. And if you still can see, it's still making higher lows from this new base that it formed back here at 11 or 12 cents, right? So the bottom line is it's still following the same pattern. Up massively, down about 95%. Let's continue. And the last one that I'm going to do is Solana. So Solana from the bottom, it was less than $1, right, when it first came out. And then it rose to the top here back in 2021, like 125,000% essentially, right? That's massive. Kind of similar to XRP. And when we go to the top down to here, to the bottom, it went down over 96% as well, right? So nothing different than what we've already seen. The only difference with Solana and Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatnot, that they did drop all the same initially, but they have been able to recover quicker. And the reason why they're able to recover quicker is because liquidity has been flowing into those markets and not the rest of altcoins, mainly because there's not enough liquidity out there. right? There needs to be more liquidity in the market for growth stocks to do well, for altcoins to do well, for a lot of things to do well. So once rates start to be cut, once the liquidity returns to the market, then you'll see more coins do exactly what Solana has been doing. And if you think that these rest of them, like HBAR or DAG or XRP, if they're not going to make those moves, then think again, because look at this high time frame chart. Let me just take off Amazon. Look at this high time frame chart. It is essentially making higher from the very bottom here, right here. It is a higher low, higher low, higher low, and maybe another higher low over here, right? It's making consecutive higher lows, just like you see with Solana, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low, and so on and so forth. Like the high time frame market structures look very, very healthy. And if they didn't look healthy, I would say otherwise. But the ones that I showed you, they look very similar to those internet stocks in the early days with that massive rise and then a massive decline. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before the rest of the altcoin market looks more like the Solana chart than what current price is showing right now. And once liquidity returns, then we'll probably see a lot more gains just similar to this chart.